Chief Gall emerged as one of the fiercest leaders of the Sioux Nation during their final struggle for freedom. The relentless expansion of civilization westward over the past 3 centuries has been immense. When our continent was first discovered, it had already been inhabited by indigenous peoples for countless generations. However, it remained undiscovered in the sense that the original inhabitants had not mapped or publicized it. Yet, many of these indigenous societies had developed profound principles of life that prioritized genuine liberty and equality for all individuals. They did not adhere to the concept of private ownership of land or other possessions beyond what was truly necessary. This mindset represented a spiritual evolution toward fundamental humanity, giving rise to remarkable individuals within these societies. Both Native Americans and Caucasians regarded Gall as the epitome of physical strength and masculinity. You can discern this for yourself from his likeness. Now let's track his journey. Gall was no inexperienced newcomer. He never sought an easy path for himself. He consistently adhered to the rules of the game and saw things through to the end. Admittedly, like any other individual, he made errors, but he remained true to his identity as a Native American and never displayed cowardice. The earliest accounts of his life and actions reflect the same spirit seen in him as a young boy. At just around 3 years old, the Blackfoot band of Sioux embarked on their customary hunting expeditions, trailing the buffalo across the expansive and magnificent prairies of the Dakotas. Every Sioux mother followed the custom of loading their belongings onto available dogs and pack ponies, often lending them out to other women in need, especially if their own horse or dog had perished or been taken during a raid by Crow warriors. During this specific event, the mother of our young Sioux warrior, Matohinshta, or Bear Shedding His Hair, Gall's childhood name, assigned her son to an aged Eskimo pack dog, known for its expertise and dependability, except in moments of heightened agitation or intense thirst. During the day of packing up camp, the caravan proceeded on its morning journey along the Powder River. On the expansive plateau, the women were engaged in digging tepsina, a Swedish root commonly consumed by them, while the mobile village advanced at a leisurely pace. As customary during such occasions, the path was broad. An old jackrabbit, having lingered in hiding for too long, suddenly emerged, finding itself nearly encircled by the formidable plains inhabitants, with its ears standing prominently erect, presenting a formidable challenge to both the dogs and the people. A shout erupted. Every dog eagerly embraced the challenge. Forgotten were the bundles, the belongings, and even the infants they were leading or carrying. The pursuit had begun, and the shouts of the women echoed across the cliffs of the Powder River, blending with the barks of dogs and the whinnies of horses. Every man joined forces against the bold warrior Lone Jack, and chaos ensued. As the fleeing figure broke free from the group of adversaries, his sudden burst of speed demanded admiration and suggested a relentless pursuit. Trailing behind him was a line of pursuers, beginning with the swift, unencumbered dogs, followed by the travois dogs, led by the elderly Eskimo carrying valuable cargo. Young Gall rode in a travois, a basket attached to trailing poles and fastened to the sides of the animal. "Hey, they're closing in on him!" yelled a warrior. At that moment, 2 of the canines were nearly within reach of their furry target from behind, but he outsmarted them. He swiftly dropped to the ground, sending both dogs tumbling over him, rolling and spinning, then darted off in a different direction, perpendicular to his initial path. This allowed the Eskimo to intercept the triangle. He gained 50 yards, but with a heavy load, 2 unburdened dogs passed him. The jackrabbit employed the same maneuver again, this time narrowly escaping certain death with a quick double turn, and now sprinting directly toward the onlookers, trailed by a dozen or more dogs. His pace was slowing down, and similarly, his pursuers were gradually falling behind. Only the resilient Eskimo dog maintained its steady stride, with the young Matohinshta perched in the fragile travois behind it. Clad only in a breechcloth, he gripped the dog's tail with his left hand while firmly holding onto one of the travois poles with his right. His intense black eyes seemed ready to pop out of their sockets, while his long hair streamed behind him like a dark river. The jackrabbit now dashed directly toward the cheering onlookers, but his remarkable speed and keenness were diminishing. whereas his leading pursuer, seasoned in numerous pursuits, remained confident in his stamina. With each bound, he drew closer, more ferocious and resolute. The jackrabbit's final attempt was to blend into the crowd, akin to a fish disappearing in murky water, but the large dog executed a precise leap with unwavering accuracy. Its teeth gleamed as it seized the rabbit in a vice-like grip, holding him motionless in victory. The crowd surged forward as the victor set the prey down, and leading them was the frantic mother of Matohinshta, also known as Gall. "Mishinkshe! Mishinkshe!" she exclaimed as she neared. The boy remained unfazed by the experience. He cried out, "My dog proved his bravery. He caught the rabbit." Hastily, she lifted him from the travois, but he wriggled out of her hold to look affectionately and with admiration at his dog. Nearby, elderly men and boys gathered around the heroic dog, while Matohinshta's attentive grandmother unfastened him and poured water from a parfleche water bag into a basin. "Take this, my beloved grandson, and give your friend a sip." "Ah, Hechetu," remarked an aged warrior retired from active duty. It might seem trivial now, just an everyday event, but sometimes these occurrences hint at greater things to come. The lad had quite an adventure. I predict that one day he'll captivate everyone's attention with his deeds. This tale marks the earliest memory of the renowned chief, yet his youthful escapades hinted at the leader he would become. Engaging in numerous mock battles, he experienced victories and defeats, displaying both fierceness and sportsmanship. During one snowball fight, with nearly 100 boys on each side, the rule was simple. A fair hit meant the struck individual was out of the game, frozen in place. Gall's team was swiftly losing ground, the skirmish intensifying with each passing moment. Seeking refuge, the young warrior positioned himself near an old watering hole. As his comrades fell one by one, he found himself alone, facing 11 opponents. Hemmed in by the terrain, he deftly evaded a barrage of snowballs, disappearing momentarily. In his place, a large gray wolf emerged, startling his adversaries, who scattered in fear, believing Gall had transformed into the creature. Much to their surprise, Gall reappeared unscathed on the opposite side, securing victory for his team. Unbeknownst to the boys, the wolf's den had been concealed by snow, and its sudden appearance added to the mystique of the moment. This event was forever remembered as an auspicious sign by all who witnessed it. Gall possessed a friendly nature, yet he didn't tolerate disrespect or unfair treatment. While this occasionally led to conflicts, he rarely engaged in fights without just cause and was well liked by his peers. Notably, he had a knack for organization, a quality that would become instrumental in his leadership as he matured. Gall faced numerous challenges, but he never faltered when it came to displaying physical courage and resilience. He began serving the public at a young age, only after demonstrating his capability and passing all required assessments. As a young boy, Gall once went hunting in the middle of winter, far from his camp, when he got caught in a 3-day blizzard. He had to leave his horse behind and huddle under the snow for the duration of the storm. Reflecting on the experience later, he mentioned that hunger wasn't his main concern. Rather, it was the thirst and stiffness that troubled him the most. One of the reasons Native Americans cherished their horses and dogs so dearly was because these animals would stand by them like loyal companions during such trying times. Fortunately for Gall, his pony was nearby when the storm cleared and the sun emerged. With a herd of buffalo in sight, the young hunter wasted no time in securing a meal. People from the same era as this chief still remember his wrestling match with Roman Nose, another strong Cheyenne boy who later became a chief famous in American history. Among the northwestern tribes, it was customary for two friendly tribes camping together to determine the physical and athletic prowess of their youth. The Che-Hu-Hu is a wrestling game where there can be any number on each side, but they have to be equal. All the boys from each camp gather under a leader chosen for the occasion and line up as if for battle. Then, when given the signal, each boy attacks his opponent. In this unforgettable match, Gall, also known as Matohinshta, was paired against Roman Nose. Everyone from both tribes gathered as spectators of the showdown, and the battleground was a plateau situated between the two camps amidst the scenic Badlands. While there were numerous athletic youths around, these two were undeniably the standout figures of their tribes. In this type of competition, participants are not permitted to punch, grab around the neck, kick, or pull hair. They can break away and run a short distance to regroup, or grapple freely. When a contestant is thrown and held down, they are considered out. If a participant realizes they're outmatched, they might drop to the ground to avoid further rough treatment, but it's rare for someone to concede without testing their strength fully. It felt almost like an actual battle, with tremendous enthusiasm as supporters on both sides cheered loudly. Eventually, everyone except Gall and Roman Nose was defeated or subdued. The two of them appeared evenly matched, both stripped down to their breechcloths. Sometimes they pulled at each other like young buffalo or elk during mating season. Other times they writhed and twisted like serpents. Occasionally they fought like wild stallions, exerting every muscle in their arms, legs, and backs. Occasionally one would be lifted off his feet briefly but landed firmly and regained his balance quickly. Everyone watched intently as the two champions battled it out. Eventually, whether through strategy or sheer strength, Gall brought the other to the ground and held him there for a moment before letting him go and standing tall, breathing heavily but triumphant. Cheers erupted from the Sioux side of the camp. Roman Nose's mother stepped forward and draped a beautifully crafted buffalo robe over Gall, while Gall's mother reciprocated by covering the young Cheyenne with a fine blanket. Without a doubt, these early competitions left their mark on our hero's life path. He had a knack for showing up at just the right moment during a crisis, taking charge of the situation in a bold and dramatic manner. One of the most famous instances of this is when he appeared amidst chaos during Reno's surprise attack on the Sioux at the Little Bighorn. Many of the young warriors, nearly unarmed and in a frenzy, rushed recklessly to confront the intruders, a scene that could have rattled even the most seasoned fighter. But it was Gall, riding on his black horse with nothing but his bare body, who galloped ahead of the others and faced down the threat. He halted them at the dry creek despite the bullets flying around them from Reno's men. "Hold steady, men, don't rush yet. Wait for more guns and horses and victory will be ours." They followed orders, and after a few minutes the command to charge was given, and Reno hastily retreated before the Sioux onslaught. Sitting Bull trusted in his men as long as Gall was planning and leading the attack, whether against U.S. soldiers or warriors from other tribes. Gall was a skilled strategist, quickly spotting and seizing opportunities. He was truly the backbone of Sitting Bull's last effective resistance. He consistently defended his people's right to their buffalo lands and believed in holding the government accountable to its agreements. When the 1868 treaty was violated, he joined Sitting Bull in defending their remaining territory after the Battle of Custer, fleeing to Canada with his chief. They hoped to plead their case to the British government but were disappointed when asked to return to the United States. Gall arrived at Fort Peck, Montana in 1881, accompanied by half of the Hunkpapa Band, and shortly after, Sitting Bull joined them. Despite assurances from the U.S. Commission during negotiations in Canada that they would not face punishment upon their return, as soon as Gall arrived, some of his people were attacked. By spring, they were all taken to Fort Randall and held as military prisoners before being transferred back to the Standing Rock Agency. When Buffalo Bill successfully launched his first show, he spared no effort to secure both Sitting Bull and Gall as his main attractions. The military fully supported this, as they still harbored deep suspicions about these two leaders. While Sitting Bull reluctantly agreed, Gall proudly stated, "I am not a spectacle to be showcased before the public," and withdrew to his teepee. His spirit weakened, and he began to decline in strength from that moment on. His once remarkable manhood faded, and within a few years he passed away. He embodied the essence of a true hero from a free and untamed people, a prototype that will never be witnessed again.